Hi there, Stan the Annuity Man, America's annuity agent. Retirement income. Let's talk about that, and let's talk about the 3 tips that I learned in 2021 from some of the biggest financial rock stars on the planet that happen to be guests of mine on my great podcast called Fun With Annuities. It's on all podcast platforms, and we even have a YouTube channel called Fun With Annuities that you can check out. But I'm going to share with you and I had some great guests on it. This is not being a negative toward any of my other guests. I mean, it took me a while to drill down to 3. But I've chosen 3 tips from 3 specific guests on my podcast that you need to understand. And that was a head slapper and a wake-up aha moment for yours truly as well when I was doing these podcasts with these people. They're smart. That's the reason I do these podcasts. I bring on the guests. I want to hear their brain. I want to hear what they're thinking. I want to hear what they're researching. I want to hear what they're working on. I want to hear what they're trying to do to make your retirement better and the tips that they have for you. So let's get down to it, but not until I hear Mick and the Stones, kinda, music. All right, the first rock star that I want to point out, and he's a good friend of mine. His name is Tom Hegna, Hegna, at tomhegna.com. I believe is his site, but if you can go to my site at theannuityman.com, pull up the podcast drop down, you can listen to the podcast I've done with Tom, and they're great. He's written one of the best books ever on retirement called Paychecks and Playchecks, but I had him on recently, and we were talking about lifetime income, and he's a big believer in transferring risk for lifetime income, using annuities as that income floor. He's on board and right beside me, with Stan the Annuity Man on that message. But one of the things that Tom pointed out that I thought was very interesting was he is a firm believer, not just because he believes, because he's researched it and it's fact, that mortality credits are a bargain, an absolute bargain in your favor at the time of this taping. Now, he does think that will change in the future. So let's talk about what mortality credits are. It's the pooling of risk with all of the people that are your age. So when you buy an annuity for lifetime income from a carrier, they're taking everyone your age, pooling the risk, and that's how they are creating, with life expectancy tables, et cetera, that payout. All right? It's a combination of return of principal plus interest based on your life expectancy and mortality credits. Interest rates play a secondary role. Interest rates play a secondary role. So don't be some master. I'm waiting on interest rates to move, Stan. That's not smart because they could go down. Yeah, they could. But what Tom was saying was mortality credits right now are a bargain. At the time of this taping, we've gone through some tough times in the last year and a half, 2 years on COVID. It's been horrific. From a global standpoint, from the standpoint of loved ones lost, I personally have lost 3 friends in my age group to COVID, so it hit pretty close to home for me and was a kind of a slap in the face wake-up call to live life for the day and get it together and get your plans together, etc. But what Tom was saying was mortality credits, because there's a lot of people that died that were like in their late 70s and 80s, and they died, and that's terrible. But from a life expectancy standpoint, they were probably close to passing away anyway. And the life insurance companies, in Tom's research, he thinks that they're going to lengthen out your life expectancy, meaning they're going to predict that you're going to live longer. Why is that important? That's important because if they're predicting that you live longer, that means that there will be more payments. And if there's going to be more payments projected, that means those payments will be lower. So Tom is pounding the table that you might want to look at annuity lifetime income stream transfer of risk payments now, because mortality credits are a bargain. Okay, so the second rock star, and this guy is a rock star. If there was a Mount Rushmore of retirement income grand poobahs, he would be up there. His name is Wade Pfau, Pfau. And if you go to my site at theannuityman.com, pull down the podcast, drop down, you're going to see the podcast I did with Wade Pfau. Smart guy now. This guy has written 4 or 5 books. I mean, he is at the top of the ivory tower from the standpoint of research. Really smart guy and a very good guy too. And you listen to the podcast. Again, my podcast is called Fun With Annuities. It's on all platforms, and we also have a YouTube channel, Fun With Annuities YouTube channel. You can see the replays. But what he said during our podcast that just, boom, I was like, what? He had written a book a long time ago on reverse mortgages and how to utilize the equity in your homes. And a lot of people think that's the wild, wild west. You think of these kind of aging stars, film stars or TV stars that are on these commercials that are pitching reverse mortgages. It kind of feels kind of slimy a little bit, right? Nod your head. But Wade looked into it. Wade's one of these people, and I love this about him, that he'll read something or see something, and he doesn't make a snap judgment. He looks into it. He researches it. So what he did is he looked into home equity and reverse mortgages and things like that, and here's his tip. He thinks that when you turn age 62, that you should look at your home, your property, homes, whatever, and you should establish a line of credit. Doesn't mean you need a reverse mortgage for income, but establish a line of credit so that you can pull money from that investment in your homes and lands investment, right, in case you need to draw from it. And here's his reason. This is a no-brainer, okay? And I know that we're living in these markets at the time of this taping where markets just go straight up, and everybody thinks the markets always go straight up, and they don't think it'll ever go down, and all this stuff. And then Wade Pfau is like, the 4% rule is a joke. He's done the research on that to where that really doesn't apply in today's markets in a global setting. And I've talked about that previously. I encourage you to listen to the podcast for that as well. But what he's saying is establish that line of credit so that if there is another market dip, that you're not taking money from your investments, your non-annuity investments, stocks, bonds, ETFs, crypto, whatever that is. You're not pulling from that when it drops, which is what most people do, and that's a mistake. You pull from that home equity line of credit, okay, at a very low interest rate to make up for that market hiccup, and you keep your investments intact because it does eventually and historically return and bounce back. That's a no-brainer. Now, if Stan the Annuity Man told you to do that, to take out home equity line of credit and all that stuff, you'd be like, yeah, whatever. But Wade Pfau's telling you that? That's a wake-up call. That's a backhand to your face saying, this is legit. This is a legit strategy that if you don't have it in the back of your head and you're not implementing it when you're age 62 and beyond, and you don't have that in the batter's box, baseball analogy, have it there waiting in case you need it, then you're not thinking. Don't believe me? Go to my site, pull up the Wade Pfau podcast, listen to it. We have links to all his books. We have the link to his book that he wrote about this specific topic. So that's the second Rockstar tip that blew me away that I'm going to do that. I'm advising my clients to do that under Wade Pfau's tutelage, right? What he's written about, I tell them to write, get the book, read the book. But it's one more thing that a lot of people out here, because of the way that product, home equity line of credit or whatever, your reverse mortgage, however that's been positioned and pitched, everybody's like, ugh. I mean, annuities have a bad rap, right? But that has a bad rap too. Same thing with annuities. Annuities might have a bad rap, but it's the only product on the planet that can provide a lifetime income stream. Wade Pfau's saying, yes, he agrees with that too, but also with the reverse mortgage or home equity line of credit in the batter's box in case you need it. All right, the final Rockstar tip, and boy, it was hard to narrow it down to 3. I mean, come on, man. It's tough. That's why you need to just, every week we put out these podcasts every Tuesday. You need to just check it out because I have some superstars on. One of the superstars I had on, his name was Jamie Hopkins, young kid. And we were talking during the podcast, and it was free form. As you know, I'm just kind of riffing it with these guys and trying to pick, and ladies, by the way, like Christine Benz and Terry Savage have been on my podcast as well, just phenomenal smart. But with Jamie, I was saying, Jamie, how did you get here? He's a young guy, he's smart, he's got all these degrees and all these, letters behind his name, and he's a leader and a thought leader in the retirement income and retirement space. And I said, Jamie, how do you do that? How did you come to the fork in the road? What made you be passionate about this? And he said something that floored me, and it should floor you, and we all have a story like this. Probably not as tragic as his, but a story. And it was the why that makes you cry. I want you to think about that for a second. What in your life is the passion, the why that makes you cry? So when he said that, I said, okay, you got to tell me more. When Jamie was 8 years old and growing up, his father was painting or doing some scaffolding on his house. And I think they lived in Pennsylvania, and it was cold out and like sleet and stuff like that. and Jamie was 8, and his father slipped off that ladder, fell, and died. And from that moment on, for whatever reason, Jamie was interested in retirement and money and planning because he watched his mom struggle with him and his brothers and sisters. And that was the why that made him cry. That was what made it passionate for him to be a researcher and to understand retirement and to help people make good decisions about their retirement planning. That was the why that made him cry. Okay? You know, I have my own stories, you know, of growing up in rural North Carolina. And, you know, I was always wondering why everyone else had tons of money and we didn't, and why didn't we buy stocks and bonds, and, you know, why were we struggling? The struggling, and my parents did a great job. I mean, bless their hearts, they worked so hard. But that was kind of the why, you know, why? And so I go into the financial services business not knowing stock from bond. Why? Because I wanted to know. I wanted to know why do some people have money and some people don't? Why do some people inherit money and some people don't? Why do some kids have it real easy and some kids don't? You know, and I was passionate so my kids would never, ever have to worry again as long as I was alive, and when I'm dead, they'll never have to worry. Is that being a good parent? I don't know. That's for you to decide, I guess. But for me, that's the why. That's the why that makes you cry. So Jamie, in part of his retirement planning approach, is finding out that why. Finding out the motivation that's driving you to do what you're doing, that's driving you to watch videos like this and do your own research and manage your own money and make sure things are set up right. And to engage, maybe set an appointment with a guy like me to talk about annuities of all things, because that might take care of people that you want to take care of or accomplish a goal that you want to accomplish. The why that makes you cry. So those are the 3 things that hit me like a ton of bricks this year and has motivated me to continue to do my Fun With Annuities podcast and have these smart people on and to dig in and pull some things out of them that they might not want to talk about, but that's beneficial to you. And I think these 3 things that I talked about today are beneficial to you. The why that makes you cry from Jamie Hopkins. Mortality credits being at a bargain basement level and a reason to look at lifetime income stream, and that comes from Tom Hegna. And then Wade Pfau stepping in and saying, I know you might think that reverse mortgages or tapping into a home equity line of credit doesn't make sense to you, but it does. It makes sense from a research standpoint, and it makes sense from a math standpoint. I want to thank those 3 guests. I hope they're on my podcast again. And I appreciate you joining me. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on Stan the Annuity Man's YouTube video.